Vaishnav Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganavaguratanikam Tvam Sajivekam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganadalita Shri Vishakrantam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pachare Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschantite Sakarani Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurakrishna He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarupascha Kupa Sindhu Devcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna. So welcome all of you to the last session of our unit. So we are in the 15th chapter. I think first 8 verses I covered, right? So 15th chapter is titled "The Pandavas Retired Timely." So the first 6 verses are about Arjuna's strong feelings of separation from Krishna. So when Yudhishthira has inquired, Arjuna, so what happened? So is everything fine in Dwaraka? So indirectly he inquired and finally asked whether Krishna left or what. So then that stirred actually Arjuna's emotions more. The questions posed by Yudhishthira. So the Arjuna's feelings of separation, they were described in the first 6 verses. So, and then from 7 to 17, so Arjuna is remembering where all Krishna has protected him, giving him powers to overcome all the obstacles. And then from 18 to 23, so he is describing remembering intimate moments of with Krishna, that how friendly Krishna dealt with him. And then from 24 to 31, Arjuna focuses on Lord's instructions and attains transcendence. The Bhagavad Gita message he was remembering. And then he could come out of that separation. And then from 32 to 44, Yudhishthira Maharaj, after hearing that Lord has already departed, so he also prepared himself to leave this world. And of course, the Pandava brothers also followed. And then from 5 and 6 verses, 45 to 51, other Pandavas, Draupadi and Vidura also departed. Like this 15th chapter is there. So we are now in the 9th verse, where Arjuna is recalling Lord Krishna's favor towards him. So can you share the Veda base, 9th verse?
Yes.
So in the 8th verse only we discussed the main point, very important point, that how the mercy of the Lord is the mercy of the devotees more merciful than the Lord. The mercy of the devotee is more valuable than the mercy of the Lord. So how the devotee's mercy follows Krishna's mercy. Or Krishna's mercy follows devotee's mercy. So we all come into devotional service by devotee's mercy. And once a devotee shows mercy, Krishna will show mercy. And the proof that Krishna showed mercy is that we get engaged in the service of the devotee. The proof that we are all receiving the mercy of Lord Krishna is that we are all in the serving in the society of ISKCON, serving Srila Prabhupada. So in that way we have to understand. Okay, so 9th verse. Yattejasa rupashirondri mahanmakattam Aryo nujastava yuta sattvavirya Tena vrita pramatana tamakaya bhupa Yanmo chitastadanayan balimadvarete. This translation.
Your respectable younger brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jarasandha, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarasandha's Mahabhairava Yagya, but they were thus released. Later they paid tribute to your majesty.
So this is the instant how Bhima could defeat Jarasandha or kill Jarasandha. So it's only by the mercy of the Lord. It's only by the power of the Lord Bhima could do that. Although Bhima is compared here to Gajayuta Saptavirya, is compared to the one who is having the strength of 10,000 elephants. Gajayuta Saptavirya. Anujastava. Anujastava means he's telling to Yudhishthira Maharaj, your brother, younger brother, who is Bhima. So Bhima could kill Jarasandha, under whom many kings surrendered their head at his lotus feet. Rupa Sirongri. And what Jarasandha did is he captured all these kings and he hid them or he bound them to be presented before the sacrifice of Mahabhairava. Like that. He arrested them, he kept them bound, so to be sacrificed. So when Bhima killed Jarasandha, so all these kings were released, and because of their gratitude, they presented their taxes to the Yudhishthira Maharaj. So yan mochitas tad anayan balimadvareti. So they gave their taxes to Yudhishthira Maharaj with their gratitude. Like this. So Prabhupada, of course, tells the story of Jarasandha, how Jarasandha was born from so many details Prabhupada gives. You can read the purport. But the main point why he gets the name Jarasandha is he was combined by the demon Jara, because he was bifurcated into two parts after his birth and thrown into the forest. The demon, out of curiosity, Jara, her name was, so she combined the two parts and he became alive. So therefore the Jarasandha, the name was there. Yeah. And he was a very pious man, Jarasandha. Prabhupada writes in the end that Jarasandha never refused charity to any Brahmana. And he performed many sacrifices also. Yet he was not on a par with devotionals. He was a very pious Brahmana. Of course, he did not refuse charity to any Brahmana and performed many sacrifices. But he was not on par with devotional service. So therefore, the point is, no matter how pious you are or how charitable you are, it cannot be compared to devotional service. Right? And devotional service cannot be aroused by any amount of piety. That verse is there, no? Janma koti sukrute na labhyate. Tatra, what is that? Tax? Tatra laulyam api ekalam. The only tax for getting devotional service is lovely, intense greed, not any kind of pious activity. So this Jarasandha, he did not have that greed. He may be pious, but he is not a devotee. So he was killed. How? Bhima killed. So he has 10,000 elephant strength, but still he could not kill Jarasandha. Many times he tried to bifurcate and throw here and there, but again they were joining. Then finally Krishna told that he took up a grass bucket and threw like this, and then Bhima understood and he bifurcated him and threw it. So The point is, by the intelligence of Krishna only, that Bhima could kill Jarasandha. Right. So in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we find, right, the opulences of the absolute. Right. Balam balavatam chasmi, kamaraga vivajitaha, buddhir buddhimatam asmi. So many things come. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. Right. I am the strength of the strong. So here the Bhima is getting 10,000 strength. That is also coming from Krishna. And the intelligence, how to do it, that is also coming from Krishna. And of course, above that, Krishna is personally showing how to do it also. So therefore, all these things Arjuna is remembering. So Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada tells sometimes some scientists, they discover something. Edison, after so many failures, he discovered bulb or whatever. So the point is how they get that inspiration from within is Paramatma only. Seeing the struggle, seeing the endeavor so many times, Paramatma, the bank account of their karma is matching, then Lord, okay, chill. So he gives that inspiration as Paramatma. So therefore, Prabhupada always says that give God the Nobel Prize. So God is one who should get the Nobel Prize because he is the one because of whom everything is happening in this world, all emotions. Okay. Yeah, so we'll go to the next verse, 10th. पत्न्यास्तवादिमतक्लिप्तमहाभिषेक श्लाघिष्टचारुकबरं कितवै सभायां तुष्टं विकीर्य पदयो पतिताश्रुमुख्य यस्तत् स्त्रियो कृतहतेश विमुक्तकेशा.
Yes, Prabhu. Translation. It was he only who loosed the hair of all dares open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. At that time, she fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes.
Yeah. So this is Draupadi. Right? So in the assembly, right, where all the great generals are there and the 5 husbands were there. Still, when they lost the game, so Dushashana, he dragged her hair. He touched her hair and dragged her. So because of that act of Dushashana, all the Kaurava ladies, their hairs were losing. So the act of one person, so the whole Kaurava dynasty got destroyed. So, yeah. In the 4th line, Prabhupada, the 3rd line, Prabhupada says that Draupadi, sorry, okay, start from the purport, read the first 4 lines. Who is reading? Queen Draupadi had a beautiful bunch of hair, which was, okay, I'll read, which was sanctified in the ceremonial function of Rajasuya Yajna. But when she was lost in a bed, Dushashana touched her glorified hair to insult her. Draupadi then fell down at the lotus feet of Lord. So Draupadi fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord. Is the Lord present there in that assembly? Personally, physically? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Draupadi remembered the Lord and the Lord appeared in her mind. And in the mind, Draupadi fell down at his feet. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. Yeah. So immediately when Draupadi surrendered, Krishna immediately felt that now the whole Kaurava dynasty has to be destroyed. So down in the last 4 lines, Prabhupada says that Lord can tolerate insults upon himself by any miscreant because of the Father, because the Father tolerates even insults from the Son. But he never tolerates insults upon his devotees. By insulting a great soul, one has to forego all the results of acts, action, benedictions also. We have many examples. We already saw Hiranyakashipu because of the what he gave to trouble he gave to Prahlad, Lord could not tolerate. He came as Hiranyakashipu. assimilate. And yeah, many examples are there. Any other example where Lord did not tolerate the insult to his devotee?
Ambrish Maharaj.
Okay, Ambrish Durvasa, famous. He did not tolerate Durvasas. Even this example comes with Shobari Muni. So Lord could not. The Shobari Muni offended who? Garuda. Yeah, of course, that is little for example.
Jagai Madai.
Yeah, Jagai Madai. Lord could not tolerate their offense towards Nityananda. So there is an example, like just like when the sun is on the head, so you can tolerate the heat of the sun. Of course, sometimes it is intolerable. Nowadays, the summer is 40 plus. But it is tolerable than the when there is a sand on the ground and the heat is there and you have to walk bare feet. Right? Sometimes you cannot walk bare feet on the sand if it is hot. Literally, you'll run. Right? So you may tolerate the heat on the head, but you cannot tolerate the heat on the feet. Similarly, the Lord may tolerate his own the offenses upon him, but he cannot tolerate the offenses towards devotees. That's why, because the devotees are Prabhupada, they are sheltered at the feet of the Lord. So the pain at the feet, the Lord cannot tolerate. The Lord can tolerate the pain on the head. So that example Acharya give. Okay. So that is one thing. And also here one more thing we can note down is like because of the offense of Dushashana, one person, the whole Kaurava dynasty got destroyed. Similarly, we get in Chaitanya Charitamrita also the offense of Ramachandra Khan. He did not respect Nityananda when he came to his village. He was driven away. So for that offense, the whole village got destroyed because they did not oppose him, Ramachandra Khan. They had some connection with Ramachandra Khan. Or they did not disconnect themselves from him. Because of that connection to Ramachandra Khan, the whole village got destroyed. On the other hand, you see Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, his brother, he offended Miniketan Ramadas, right? The associate of Lord Nityananda. So immediately Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami chastises him and he rejects him. That you see. So any offender, we should not encourage him. We should not actually hear the blasphemy of devotees, right? So hearing the blasphemy of devotees is devotee or offense of a devotee. Seeing the offense of a devotee is also, we are also taking part in that offense, right? So we have an example of a famous example of Hadini Mataji. When the devotees were being fired, she could not tolerate that. So that it's an offense to just do nothing, seeing the devotees were harmed. So she told, okay, you kill me before doing any harm to us. So that is the epitome of the example she has shown. But at least for in our case, we should not be there when the devotees are being hurt or blasphemed. If we can do something, we have to do. Otherwise, we have to run away from that place. So that's because the Lord cannot tolerate the offense of the devotees. Okay, so next verse, 11th. Translation, please. Direct. In the previous verse, I have an example of even Prabhupada and Mr. N. Lord could not tolerate Mr. N giving trouble to Prabhupada, so Mr. N was killed by the Lord himself personally as heart attacks.
During our exile, Durvasa Muni, who eats with his 10,000 disciples, intrigued with our enemies to put us in dangerous trouble. At that time, he, Lord Krishna, simply by accepting the remnants of food, saved us. By his accepting food, thus the assemblies of Munis, while bathing in the river, felt sumptuously fed. and all the three words were also satisfied.
So this is also a very nice story that comes in Mahabharata. So Durvasasho Arirachita Daitagra Duranta Kucha. This very dangerous trouble was brought by whom? Durvasa. So Arirachita. The Arirachita means which was fabricated by the enemies. Enemies means Duryodhana and all. And Durvasa Muni is addressed here as Ayutagra Puk. Ayutagra means he eats ahead of 10,000 disciples. So he eats, he doesn't eat alone. Along with him, after he eats, 10,000 people are lining up. So if he comes, we have to feed 10,000 of his disciples also. So therefore, once that whole story is told in the purport that once he went to, so the Duryodhana party, house of Duryodhana pleased him. And Prabhupada writes actually in the purport only, if he was pleased, so he could do tremendous good. And if he is displeased, he could bring the greatest calamity. That is Durvasa. So therefore, when he pleased the Duryodhana party, so he told what you want, he can give whatever you want. Then Duryodhana, intelligently, knowing that the Pandavas were in exile, so he told that you go and you give the opportunity of service to Yudhishthira. So they also want to receive their blessings. But you go at a time where they had finished their lunch, where the Draupadi, who has got that magic wand given by some sun god, which can give any amount of food, till the time Draupadi eats. Once Draupadi eats and washes the plate, so it cannot produce any more food. So after that you go, Durvasa. So like that, Arirachita, that's why the word is Arirachita. Duryodhana very diplomatically planned this and sent Durvasa. And when Durvasa Muni came, everybody is in panic, especially the Draupadi, because she knows that, okay, now this plate cannot give any more food. Then again she remembered, because what devotees will do? Prabhupada writes down the purport, right? When the devotees are put into difficulty, they have no opportunity to recollect the Lord than to recollect the Lord with that recognition. Immediately, Draupadi remembered the Lord, and Lord again came. Of course, he was in Dwarka, but when Draupadi remembered, immediately he appeared there, and he told, then all Pandavas were very happy to receive the Lord, but then the Lord told, please feed me. So already they are in trouble that we have to feed Durvasa and 10,000 disciples. Now again, Lord is asking us to feed. Where will we feed? We don't have anything now. Then Lord told, okay, पीछे रहेगा थोड़ा देखो कुछ तो रहेगा. Like just sometimes we ask devotees to keep plate for us, na. So I am coming late, so keep one more plate for me. So like the Lord is asking, okay, कुछ तो रखा होगा, plate बना के रखा होगा, पीछे देखो. So then Draupadi brought the plate, and there is shakan system, little small spinach left over in the plate. So then the Lord very gracefully took that spinach, and once he was satisfied, then the whole world, the three worlds were satisfied. Truptan mamshta lile minimum slokin means all the three worlds were satisfied, and even the three worlds satisfied in front. Even the Durvasa Muni and his 10,000 disciples, their stomach was filled. The Lord was belching, and belch was coming when they were taking bath in the river. Durvasa Muni and the party. So then Lord told Bhima, so you go and call these disciples for lunch. So Bhima, without any hesitation, he went. See the faith of Bhima and Lord's words. There is nothing there, no food, but taking the instruction of Lord, Bhima went, and then he called Durvasa, please come, the lunch is ready, feast is ready. Then they felt, my God, now if you don't go and eat, what Bhima will do? So they all ran away from it. So this story is there. So the point is, because of Lord's mercy only. So Lord was satisfied, and everybody else was satisfied. So last para, Prabhupada writes very nice instruction for all of us. Go to the last para, last 4 lines. Read that.
This incident proves that the Lord is the greatest mystic, and therefore he is known as Yogeshwara. Another instruction is that every householder must offer food to the Lord, and the result will be that everyone, even a company of guests numbering 10,000, will be satisfied because of the Lord's being satisfied. That is the way of devotional service.
That is the way of devotion. Prabhupada's classic. So many times it's instruction for all householders that they should offer food to the Lord. So, because by offering food to the Lord, that becomes prasada. So, of course, the way you offer the food with love and with such details, so treating him as a person, and when the Lord eats that, so what happens is mercy is coming in that food. And when any one person eats that food, he also gets completely satisfied. Or even they may not eat the food also, just by pleasing the Lord, what you are doing is you are pouring the water on the root. That will actually has a tremendous effect on the whole society. Just by your offering food to the Lord lovingly, so you are contributing the whole society being satisfied. So we may not see the connection, but it's there. So if there is one section you can read later. Don't want to take now. See, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhyalila, 3rd chapter, 41st verse, 64 and 65. Maybe just I'll see the translations if you can open. Is it possible? Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhyalila,
Yes.
3.646 by directly. See, Advaita Acharya, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there, so Advaita Acharya cooked a lot of items. His wife Sita Thakurani, and they fed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that was very wonderful. So many items. You can read the whole list of items later, easily. Yeah. So 65th translation, previous verse. Okay, 64 and 64. Yeah, this one.
Advaita Acharya took Lord Nityanand Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu within the room, and the two lords saw the arrangements of the prasadam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was especially very pleased.
Next.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved of all the methods employed in cooking and offering food to Krishna. Indeed, he was so pleased that he said, "Frankly, I will personally take the lotus feet of anyone who can offer Krishna such nice food and place those lotus feet on my head, birth after birth."
Yeah, I wanted to show this one. So Mahaprabhu is directly saying this. Aichanna ye Krishna ke karaye bhojana. So if anyone who offers food like this, so many preparations, the whole list is there. Later you can read previous to this. Janme janme shire daro tahara chara. So I will take the dust of the lotus feet on my head, life of it. So therefore, the point is, in the devotional service, it's not about doing big projects or, of course, devotees are there empowered to do that also. But it's all sides, all encompassing devotional service. Even a simple household lady also can please the Lord to such an extent that Lord is ready to take the dust of the lotus feet. So therefore, we should not be thinking that, oh, I cannot do great things for the Lord. I cannot build big temples or do big preaching work. No, you can cook, right? And you can cook in such a way that Lord should feel like this, that I will take the dust of the lotus. Okay, so we can maybe read later. So go to the next verse, 12th verse. Translation.
It was by his influence only that in a fight I was able to astonish the personality of God, Lord Shiva, and his wife, the daughter of Mount Himalaya. Thus he, Lord Shiva, became pleased with me and awarded me his own weapon. Other demigods also delivered their respective weapons to me, and in addition, I was able to reach the heavenly planets in this present body and was allowed a half-elevated seat.
So this is also how the law Arjuna defeated, even, of course, not defeated, challenged Lord Shiva. Shulapanir, one with Shulapanir, Tejasa. Even astonished. Shiva was also astonished how Arjuna could fight like this. And being with Arjuna, he awarded his Pashupata, his own weapon. And of course, all the other demigods are also pleased with him and awarded him weapons. Maybe somebody can do research and find out what all weapons Arjuna received from different demigods. Right here, Agni gave him the chariot, Indra gave him something gift, right? Horses, I think. Yeah, Pandiva bow is given by some demigod. Like that, Arjuna received many gifts from different demigods. In addition, I was able to reach the heavenly planets in the present body. Okay, so the middle of the purport, the devotees of the Supreme Lord know how to respect the demigods. Please read that part.
The devotees of the Supreme Lord know how to respect the demigods, but the devotees of the demigods sometimes foolishly think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is no greater than the demigods. By such a conception, one becomes an offender and ultimately meets with the same end as Ravana and others. The instances described by Arjuna during his friendly dealings with Lord Sri Krishna are instructive for all who may be convinced by the lesson that one can achieve all favors simply by pleasing the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whereas the devotees or worshippers of the demigods may achieve only partial benefits, which are also perishable, just as the demigods themselves are.
Okay. So here again, Prabhupada is emphasizing that just to worship the Supreme Lord is sufficient. No need to worship the demigods. Of course, we respect the demigods. We don't disrespect. But like that Govardhan Lila, the Lord personally showed to his own, through his own eternal companions, that it's not required to worship the demigods. So there is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 18.1, Chaitanya Bhagavatam. So he is considered an atheist, one who thinks that Shiva and Lord Vishnu are equal. Shapashandi Bhavedruvam, like that one verse comes. So because Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arasava Bhutya. So it's very clear. So there is only one supreme, everybody else is his servants. So that should be clear. We should not treat the demigods on equal level with the Lord. And last part of the paragraph, Arjuna was allowed to enter into the heavenly planets in the self-same body. That also you can read.
Arjuna was allowed to enter into the heavenly planets in the self-same body simply by the grace of the Lord. Otherwise, it is not possible to do so. The present attempts to enter into the heavenly planets by the modern scientists will certainly prove futile because such scientists are not on the level of Arjuna. They are ordinary human beings without any assets of sacrifice, charity, or austerities. The material body is influenced.
Okay. So one cannot reach the heavenly planets by any mechanical procedures or any other process. So there is a procedure. Yanti Deva, Vrata Deva, Tunyanti Putrota, Bhutani Yanti Bhutecha. So like that, the procedure is there. One follows the procedure, he can do. So, but Arjuna could go in the self-same body by the Lord's mercy, by the Lord's intervention. So because the Lord is the maker of the law. So Lord made the law. So he can break the laws. For his devotee, he can break the laws. But otherwise, generally, so by any mechanical efforts or any other, one cannot reach the heavenly planets in the same body. 13th translation.
When I stayed for some days as a guest in the heavenly planets, all the heavenly demigods, including King Indradev, took shelter of my arms, which were marked with the Gandhi bow to kill the demon named Nivatta Kavach. O King, descendant of Ajamida, In the present moment, I am bereft of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose influence I was so powerful.
Yeah. So Arjuna's feelings of separation, feeling bereft of Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose influence I was so powerful. Read the purport, small purport.
The heavenly demigods are certainly more intelligent, powerful, and beautiful, and yet they had to take help from Arjuna because of his Gandhi bow, which was empowered by the grace of Lord Sri Krishna. The Lord is all powerful, and by his grace, his pure devotee can be as powerful as he may desire, and there is no limit to it. And when the Lord withdraws his power from anyone, he is powerless by the will of the Lord.
So the Lord can empower specific devotee for specific purpose. Right here, the heavenly demigods, they're already powerful, but they need the support of Arjuna to kill some demon Nivata. So they took support of Arjuna and Arjuna's arms, which were decorated with Gandiva. Right? So Lord empowered Arjuna. So Arjuna is remembering that demigods are already powerful. And you empowered me in such a way that I can even help them also. Right? So it is he who gives power, and it is he who withdraws power. Therefore, nothing to become proud. Because whenever anything is anything to be done, Lord empowers a specific devotee. Like in Samudra Manthan Lila also we can see. Like he wanted to take the Mandara mountain for being churned in the milk ocean. So he took the help of Garuda. Chike Garuda Ajo, Mandara mountain, because nobody else can lift. So Garuda putting rod and the Mandara mountain on the back, he took near the shore of the ocean, milk ocean. And again, when that Mandara mountain was placed back, then Lord told Garuda, please go back. Your service is over. And Garuda did not argue. What is the actual event is going to start. Now I am not in the scene. How it is so. Because there Vasuki is coming. Vasuki has to be used as a rope to churn the milk ocean. Then Garuda seeing being in the Garuda's presence, Vasuki cannot do that, being a snake. So therefore, this is this thing we see actually, that Lord empowers different devotees at different times for his purposes. So we should not feel that, oh, why Lord is not empowering me, or why he is becoming limelighted. Even in the Pandavas themselves, you see the fame that Arjuna got in the Kurukshetra, or nobody else got. But nobody has any complaints. Right? So that is how anybody doing anything, actually, Lord is only empowered. And that is not required, Lord with us. Like we are like just we should see that whole everything as an orchestra, a symphony being organized by the Lord. Like we see sometimes now, the orchestra, symphony, the player, the person will be doing just like this, moving his hand. And there are some guitar players, some violin players, some flutists, some whatever. So many music players are there, instruments. And the person tells like this, and these people will start playing. The other people all will be silent. And the person will tell like this, the other side, they will start playing. And when he shows by his signal only, they will understand and they will stop at a particular time, and then when it is required, they will start the play. So it's not that in the middle, they will think that, oh, why he is not telling us to play, why he is stopping us. And if they play in the middle without his sign or his showing, so then whole that music orchestra will be a failure. Understand? So everybody has to play according to the tune of that person. So similarly, all these pure devotees, they just play according to the tune of the Lord. Nachava, Nachava, Prabhu, Nachava. Prabhupada is also praying on Jaladu. So please make me dance as you want. So like that. So Arjuna is also feeling like that. Yeah. Next verse. Translation.
The military strength of Kauravas was like an ocean in which there dwelled many invincible existences, and thus it was insurmountable. But because of his friendship, I, seated on the chariot, was able to cross over it, and only by his grace was I able to regain the cows and also collect by force many helmets of the kings, which were bedecked with jewels that were sources of all brilliance.
The whole Kaurava Sainya, right? Bandhava, Guru Balam, Manantapar, unsurpassable ocean of soldiers were there. But Eko Ratena, I'm just sitting on one chariot and I could surpass all these great soldiers, right? But how? By his grace, because he was in front driving my chariot. Yeah, and also remembering that how I regained the cows, and also collect by force many helmets of the kings which are bedecked with jewels. Just read the purport, first part. On the Kaurava side.
On the Kaurava side, there were many stalwart commanders like Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, and Karna, and their military strength was as insurmountable as the great ocean. And yet it was due to Lord Krishna's grace that Arjun alone, sitting on the chariot, could manage to vanquish them one after another without difficulty. There were many changes of commanders on the other side, but on the Pandavas side, Arjun alone on the chariot driven by Lord Krishna could manage the whole responsibility of the great war.
Okay, we can start. So that is the next sloka. Yo Bhishma Karna Guru Shalya Chamosha Bhadra Rajanyavarya Tatmandala Manditashu Atrecharo Mama Vibhorata Yotapanam Mayur Manam Stichadrisha Saha Oja Arachat.
Translation. It was he only who withdrew the duration of life from everyone and who, in the battlefield, withdrew the power and the strength of the enthusiasm from the great military flanks made by the Kauravas, headed by Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Shalya, etc. Their arrangement was expert and more than adequate, but he, Lord Shri Krishna, while going forward, did all this. Hare Krishna.
So in the purport, the other party was equipped with all military strength, supported by big generals. You can start reading that. Fifth or sixth line.
The other party was equipped with all military strength, supported by big generals like Bhishma, Drona, and Shalya, and it would have been physically impossible for Arjuna to win the battle had the Lord not helped him by every kind of tactics. Such tactics are generally followed by every statesman, even in modern warfare, but they are all done materially by the powerful diplomatic. But because Arjuna was the Lord's affectionate devotee, the Lord did all this himself without personal anxiety by Arjuna. This is the way of the devotional service to the Lord.
So Yasmin Vignatam Bhavati, Sarvam Evam Vignatam Bhavati. So when we surrender to Lord and serve Lord, everything to be known will be revealed to us. Right? So by knowing Krishna, so everything we can know. So similarly, Arjuna, even though he need not employ all the tactics, which materially somebody may employ, like diplomatics or many things are like Prabhupada mentions. So Lord did for him personally. Like it. Yeah. The Krishna Chakravarti says that here the verse, last line, Ayur Manam Chadrisha Saha Oja Archat. So Lord, by his influence, he stole away the prarabdha karma of the life, Ayu, of the other party. Because Lord is sitting in the front chariot and Arjuna is behind. So by his influence, he reduced or he stole the prarabdha karmas. And by his beauty, because he was there and people are watching him, he stole the minds of the people, or minds of the warriors. And and of course, by his power, he stole away the strength of the senses, the strength of the mind. Saha means the sharpness of the mind. that is called Saha. Of course, that is Krishna Chakravarti advised that the enthusiasm to fight, that is taken away. Because in the mind only one feels that jubilation and enthusiasm, right? So that is taken away by the power of the Lord. And Oja is the sharpness of the senses. And they were not able to lift their weapons sharply or very in time or whatever. So that is also being stolen by the influence of the Lord. So all these things are stolen or reduced. Vishnu Chakravarti says. And of course, there is one tactic that we know that Jayadratha past time, how Jayadratha was killed, because he has a blessing that he could defeat all the Pandavas at a time. He could stop them. So they wanted to kill Arjuna, or Arjuna made a vow that I will kill Jayadratha before the sunset. Some vow he made, right? So here Krishna was in worry, how could you do that? So then all the generals were supporting Jayadratha so that Arjuna will not reach Jayadratha. So they are fighting with Arjuna, right? So at that time, Arjuna was fully very severely fighting, because it is said that when Arjuna was fighting, so throughout his chariot, around the circumference, 2 kilometers, nobody will be there, because everybody is dead and gone. That is actually the fastness and sharpness of Arjuna's Gandiva, like that. So you can imagine, just he was going in the chariot, nobody will be there in the 2 kilometers radius. So like that, he was going forward, and all the generals were trying to block him towards going to Jayadratha, because he made a vow that if I don't kill by sunset, I will give up my life. So somehow he reached at the end Jayadratha, but by that time what happened is the sun got set, right? Or actually sun did not get set. So Krishna blocks the sun, the chariot wheel or whatever. So immediately Jayadratha, he comes out. Oh, now the sun is set. So Arjuna is defeated. Arjuna will now give up his life. So then Jayadratha comes out and he was dancing. Oh, we won. So immediately Krishna removes that veil and immediately sun comes. And then Krishna says, so here is sun. So till the rules, the sun is not set. So here is Jayadratha. So kill him, like Krishna says. Immediately the arrow was shot towards Jayadratha. So like that, and this is one example, so many tactics Krishna personally employed for Arjuna. So 16th verse next. Yeah, even Prabhupada says that how could I defeat so many scientists? I'm not a scientist. I did not read any big things, scientific things, but still I'm here in their land and defeating, calling them rascals, defeating them. Because once you know Krishna, everything else you know. Okay, next, 16th translation.
Great generals like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Bhurishrava, Shusharam, Shalya, Jayadratha, and Bahalika all directed their invincible weapons against me. But by his Lord Krishna's grace, they could not even touch a hair on my head. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, the supreme devotee of Lord Narsinghdev, was unaffected by the weapons demons used against him.
The example is used of Prahlad Maharaj, that how so many weapons were employed on him, nothing could harm him, because he was completely taken shelter of the Lord. Similarly, here Arjuna, no weapon could touch him. So many war, so many subtle weapons, physical weapons, everything is coming upon Arjuna. But nothing could touch Arjuna, because Krishna was sitting in front. So actually, this story was told that once the war was finished, but Arjuna told Krishna, you please get down from the chariot, O Krishna, like in respect. Then Krishna told, okay, I'll get down, first you get down. He told Arjuna to get down. So once Arjuna got down, Krishna got down from the chariot. As soon as Krishna put his step down, the whole chariot became to ashes. So then Arjuna got bewildered. Because so many subtle weapons and all this, they were coming towards the chariot, and because of me, the influence was not there upon the chariot. Right. So, Rakhe Krishna, Mareke, no one can kill somebody if Krishna protects him. Krishna neglects, nobody can protect. Okay, of course, all the Prabhupada gives the personalities, Karna, Jayadratha, so that we will not go into it. The 17th verse. Translation.
It was by his mercy only that my enemies neglected to kill me when I descended from my chariot to get water for my thirsty horses, and it was due to my lack of esteem for my Lord that I dare engage him as my chariot driver, for he is worshipped and offered services by the best men to attain salvation.
Purport, start. The Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, is
The Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the object of worship both by the impersonalist and by the devotees of the Lord. The impersonalist worship his glowing effulgence emanating from his transcendental body of eternal form, bliss, and knowledge, and the devotees worship him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are below even the impersonalists consider him to be one of the great historical personalities. The Lord, however, descends to attract all by his specific transcendental pastime, and thus he plays the part of the most perfect master, friend, son, and lover. His transcendental relationship with Arjuna was in friendship, and the Lord therefore played the part of the perfectly as he did with his parents, lovers, and wives. While playing in such a perfect transcendental relation, the devotee forgets by the internal potency of the Lord that his friend or son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although sometimes the devotee is bewildered by the acts of the Lord. After the departure of the Lord, Arjuna was conscious of his great friend, but there was no mistake on the part of Arjuna, nor any ill estimation of the Lord. Intelligent men are attracted by the transcendental acting of the Lord with a pure, unalloyed devotees like Arjuna. In the war,
you can stop it. So here comes the point how the Lord is relishing the intimate dealings of Arjuna. The Prabhupada starts with the purport that the impersonalists also worship the Lord, and the devotees also worship the Lord. But the impersonal way of worship is seeing the Lord as energy spreading everywhere. Right? But the personalists, they worship the Lord in love, right? So that 5 rasas, especially Arjuna is in the Sakya rasa. So the Lord also happily accepts that. And the internal potency acts, right? And here Arjuna was conscious of his great friend, but there was no mistake on the part of Arjuna. So that intimate dealing by Arjuna's disrespect sometimes Krishna. In the next verses, Arjuna is feeling a little cautious. Oh, I treated the Lord in such a way that like a friend, like a chariot driver. So like that, Arjuna was feeling a little sorry. But Prabhupada is telling there is no mistake on the part of Arjuna, because that is the way the Sakya Rasa will act. Intelligent men are attracted by the transcendental acting of the Lord with a pure and honored devotee like Arjuna. So intelligent people will appreciate such interactions, loving interactions between the Lord and the devotee. So maybe the scholars or impersonalists, they may not be able to appreciate. Like this section you can read, maybe this one verse you can show me. Chaitanya Chaitamrita Adi Leela, 3rd chapter, 15th verse, 3.15.
Told you this only.
Go to next verse. This. No, not this one. I got
Adi Madhya.
some
Sorry,
wrong.
I think it is, sorry.
Adi Leela, sorry, Adi Leela. Not Madhya Leela. So where he says that the Lord is telling personally.
Knowing this one or previous?
This one on this one. I'll read the verse is very important. Aishwarya Gnanite Sabha Jagata Mishrita Aishwarya Shitila Prema Nahi Mora Prita. So Lord is personally telling this. Yeah, read translation. Knowing my opulences.
Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and
veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. So Lord is not so much satisfied with awe and veneration than love and devotion. Right? So there is Aishwarya Mishrita Gnana. So when we have that awe and reverence worship, okay, that is also good in the initial stage, but eventually, so Lord wants the loving dealings. So this is Krishna personally telling these slokas. So go to the next sloka. Aishwarya Gnane Vidhi Bhajana Kariya Vaikunta Keyaya Chaturvida Mukti Paya. So by performing such regulated devotional service in non-veneration, one may go to Vaikunta and attain the 4 kinds of liberation. So next. Yeah, next, go to next verse.
To this only, Yugdharma.
Okay, take. I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the years. The congregational chanting of the I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the 4 mellows of loving devotion. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying, Yuga Dharma Pravattayamu Nama Sankirtana Chari Bhava Bhakti Diya Nachamu Bhuva. So Lord personally came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give this 4 kinds of, what the Chari Bhava means? Prema, Vatsalya, Sakya and Dasya. Right. Shanta is not actually in our Goloka mein Shanta nahi rehta hai actually. So Shanta is about awe and reverence. So that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to gift, and that is what actually Krishna is hankering for. So we should be aware of these things. Right. Okay, so we'll go ahead. So from now, 18th verse. So 18th verse say, now Arjuna is remembering his intimate dealings with Lord Krishna. That is being remembered till 23rd or 24th verse. Okay, just read translation quickly.
Hare Krishna. Translation. O King, his jokings and frank talks were pleasing and beautifully decorated with smiles. His address unto me, O son of Putha, O friend, O son of Kuru dynasty, all such heartiness are now remembered by me, and thus I am overwhelmed.
Next translation.
Generally, both of us used to live together and sleep, sit and loiter together. And at time of advertising oneself for acts of chivalry, sometimes if there any irregularity, I used to reproach him by saying, my friend, you are very truthful. Even in those hours when his value was minimized, he being the supreme soul, used to tolerate all those witherings of mine, excusing me exactly as a true friend excuses a true friend, or a father excuses son.
So many religions Abrahamic religions, they pose the Lord as somebody who's sitting on the clouds, the thunderbolt, smashing at the people who are doing something wrong, somebody who punishes, or is like a father who will award all the gifts for us, right? This is the idea of the God, right? So, but Prabhupada says in PQK, I think, ours is not a bread seeking religion. Not that we go to the church and pray that, oh Lord, give us the daily bread. So, but ours is a bread giving religion. We give bread to the Lord. We feed the Lord. So that is what so we follow. That is our Lord, who is actually very happy to receive such kind of loving and dealings from devotees. So the Arjuna is remembering all those things, right? Next verse. Yeah, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the Lord relishes the reproaches of friends, parents, or fancies more than the Vedic hymns offered to him by great learned scholars and listeners in an official fashion. Right. So we should understand the dealings between the gopis. When the gopis become upset, and they will chastise the Lord. So those dealings are more relished by the Lord than the prayers of Vedic hymns. The chapter is also there in the Krishna book. Last it comes. Yeah, next verse. Soham Rupendra Hita Purushottamena Sakya Priyena Sahruda Hrudayena Sunya Advanyurukrama Parigrahamangaraksham Gopayera Satyiravaleva Vinechitosme. So please, you have to be fast. We have only 45 minutes and I have to cover 30 verses. I don't know how it is possible. So let us see.
O Emperor, now I am separated from my friend and dear most well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore my heart appears to be void of everything. In his absence, I have been defeated by a number of infidel, cowherd men, while I was guarding the bodies of all the wives of Krishna.
So now here Arjuna is telling to Yudhishthira Maharaj, maybe what you said is correct because I lost the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is out of sight, therefore I am feeling void in the heart. So in the purport, the important point in this verse is how it was possible that Arjuna could be defeated by a gang of ignoble cowherd men, and how such mundane cowherd men could touch the bodies or the wives of Lord Krishna, who were under the protection of Arjuna. So there, so Vishnu Chakravarti ka pura story batata hai ki once Ashtavakra Muni, the heavenly damsels, they pleased Ashtavakra Muni and he gave them blessing that your Lord will be your husband. But later, because he was Ashtavakra, means he has eightfold bendings in his body. So when he was moving, he was not moving straight. So seeing that the damsels, they laugh and he becomes angry and again he curses. Some rogues will take you all away. And then again they beg his pardon. And then he says that, okay. So even if they take, again you will be regaining your husband back. So for that, to fulfill this curse and benediction of Ashtavakra Muni, the Lord personally takes the 16,000 queens as his wives. And then because of that curse, they will be taken away by one cowherd boy, who is actually the Lord himself. The Lord himself expands as cowherd boy and he takes these wives from Arjuna's hand. So therefore, the question is that how can some ordinary man touch the wives of Krishna? So not any ordinary man touched. Only Krishna expanded as cowherd man. And he stole away because of that curse. And again, they were regained the hands of Krishna. So that is Vishnu Chakravarti says. And one more story connected to it is there. It comes in the 81st chapter, I think. That the gopis, the 60,000 wives of, not gopis, these Dwarka queens, not the principal queens, the 8 queens, the other 16,000 queens, they were feeling little dissatisfied that, of course, we are getting the association of Krishna in Dwarka, his lotus feet, the dust of his lotus feet. But we want the experience of the devotees who receive the dust of his lotus feet after he comes from the herding the cows. So when he was coming after herding the cows, the dust of the cows' feet is being raised. So that dust we want to experience, that happiness. So they decide like that 16,000 rupees. So therefore, Lord is fulfilling in this incident where he stole away as a cowherd boy all the 16,000 queens from Arjuna, and he took them to Vrindavan. And then they experienced that desire. So that is the connected past. Okay, so 21st verse. This is also famous verse. You can memorize this verse. Tadvaidanustaishava sarato hayaste soham rati rupatayo yata anamanti sarvam kshanena tadabudha sadesha riktam basman hutam guhakaradamivoktamushyam.
I have the very same Garniva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them, at a moment notice, have become null and void. It is exactly like offering clarified butter or on ashes, accumulating money with a magic wand, or sowing seeds on barren land.
So very beautiful verse. Same Gandiva bow, same arrow, same chariot, everything is same. I am the same Arjuna, but there are no powers. All my powers are like butter in the ashes. Ashes में butter का कुछ फायदा है. So all are used. The three analogies are used. Accumulating money with magic wand. There is no value for it, that money. A sowing seed on a barren land. No food. So these examples are being given. Yeah. So Prabhupada writes that as we have discussed more than once, one should not be puffed up by borrowed plumes. Right? Everything is given by Lord. All electrical energies are received from the powerhouse. And as soon as the powerhouse stops supplying energy, the bulbs are of no use. This example already we discussed. Right? Yeah. Last 5 lines. Human civilization and all activities thereof must be dovetailed with the supreme blessing of the Lord, and without the blessing of all advancement of human civilization like decoration on a dead body. It is said here that a dead civilization activities are something like clarified butter on ashes, the accumulation of money on magic wand, and sowing seeds in that. So next translation.
O King, since you have asked me about our friends and relatives in the city of Dwarka, I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmanas, and as a result, they all became intoxicated with wine made of putrefied rice and fought among themselves and with sticks, not even recognizing one another. Now all but 4 or 5 of them are dead and gone.
So now, 21st verse, the section is finished, concluding, and this is Arjuna again answering Yudhishthira's question that what actually happened. So he's narrating the incidents happened in the Dwarka. The Yadus fought between themselves, intoxicated, and only 4 or 5 of them were remaining. Next translation.
Actually, this is
all due to the supreme will of the Lord, the personality of Godhead. Sometimes people kill one another, and other times they protect one another.
So the supreme Lord, supreme will is behind all good and bad of this world. Right? So sometimes he brings people together, and sometimes he moves them away, and sometimes people will kill each other. And that's how he wipes out all the population. In the middle of the purport, whenever therefore there is a disobedience of the established rules, that we can read.
Whenever, therefore, there is disobedience of the established rules enacted by the Lord, there is war between men and nations.
The surest way to the path of peace, therefore, is dovetailing everything to the established rule of the world, of the Lord. The established rule is that whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever we sacrifice, or whatever we give in charity must be done to the full satisfaction of the Lord. No one should do anything, eat anything, sacrifice anything, or give anything in charity against the will of the Lord. Discretion is the better part of valor, and one must learn how to discriminate between actions which may be pleasing to the Lord and those which may not be pleasing to the Lord. An action is thus judged by the Lord's pleasure or displeasure.
Okay, yeah, we can stop. So that's the point. So whenever there is a discrepancy in the world, that means what the established rules of the Lord are being not followed. Then only the war and all these things will be there. So what we should do at that time? So simply again follow the laws of the God. So then peace will automatically come. So the surest way to the path of peace, right? So when Prabhupada gives that verse, Yat karoshi yadasnasi yadjuhoshi tadasi. So when we do this, then whole society does this. So that is not actually Yat karoshi, that verse is not a pure devotional verse. So that is a karma yoga kind of. So whatever you are doing, you may not be fully dedicated to Krishna, but give away the results to Krishna. Because that is how you are pouring the water on the root. So by that, the peace, everything will come. So that is good. Yeah, from 25th verse. Yeah. Okay, read translation.
Hare Krishna. O King, as the ocean, the bigger and stronger aquatics swallow up the smaller and weaker ones, so as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To lighten the burden of the earth, he engaged the stronger Yadu to kill the weaker and the bigger Yadu to kill the smaller.
So this is how the material world was made, right? So the material world, everybody comes to lord over the material nature. So usually the law is that might is the right. Stronger animals will pounce upon the weaker animals. So that's how the material law acts. Yeah, in the middle, 6th, 7th line, the mentality of lording it over the material nature.
The mentality of lording it stronger and the weaker in every space of life. The mentality of lording it over the material nature and the creation of naturally created disparity and therefore the law of struggle for existence. In the spiritual world, there is no such disparity, nor is there such a struggle for existence. In the spiritual world, there is no struggle for existence because everyone there exists eternally. There is no disparity because everyone wants to render service to the Supreme Lord and no one wants to imitate the Lord in the becoming of beneficiary. The Lord being creator of...
You can stop. You can stop. So that is the law of the material world is struggle for existence. So might is the right. So whereas the law of spiritual world is service. Right. So we don't imitate the law. Okay. Next, from 27th verse, the Bhagavad Gita glories. So he was now Arjuna remembers Bhagavad Gita and gets satisfied. The instructions of Krishna. So especially 27th verse is a very beautiful purport. Will not go later you can read it. The glories of Bhagavad Gita are given. Deshakalata yuktani hruttapo pashamani cha haranti smarataschittam govinda vihitani me. Translation.
Now I am attached to those instructions imparted to me by the personality of God and Govinda, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space.
So the Lord left behind in the instructions of Bhagavad Gita not for the benefit of Arjuna alone, but also for all the times and in all lands. In the middle, the problem which arose in the heart of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra was solved by the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Again, after the departure of Lord from the vision of earthly people, when Arjuna was face to face with being vanquished in his acquired power and prominence, he wanted again to remember the great teachings of Bhagavad Gita, just to teach all concerned that the Bhagavad Gita can be consulted in all critical times, not only for Swadesh from all kinds of mental agonies, but also for the way out of great entanglements which may embrace one in some critical hour. So Bhagavad Gita, all time, place, circumstances, it can be consulted. Immediately will be free from the mental agonies or whatever problems we are facing. Therefore, it's very, very important. We should read Bhagavad Gita every day, regularly. And certainly we'll be coming out of the agonies of problems we are facing. Yeah, again down. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita, any authentic scriptural sound representation of the Lord, is also the incarnation of the Lord. There is no difference between the sound representation of the Lord and the Lord Himself. One can derive the same benefit from Bhagavad Gita as Arjuna did in the present personal presence of the Lord. So there is no difference because Lord is absolute. His sound, His name, His form, everything is same benefit. So Arjuna, Krishna is personally present, but for us, Bhagavad Gita is there. See, Bhagavan Uvacha, when we are reading that verse, so Lord is personally telling. So we should take it as personal instructions from the Lord. Then we will not feel separation from the Lord. Okay, so maybe you can read later. Next verse. Maybe I'll just take 5 minutes break. So I need the break. We'll just come again and we can go till 4:45. In half an hour we'll finish.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Prabhuji, there were 1 or 2 questions. Maybe you can take after that.
Yeah, okay, I will take up.
Thank you.
So we are continuing from verse number 28. Sutta Vacha. Evam Chintayato Jishno Krishna Pada Saroruham Sauhadena Tigadena Kanta Siddhimalamatihi. So I will take question at the end. If you don't mind, we'll just finish and then I will take questions.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, which verse is this?
28. Thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, which were imported in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking his lotus feet, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all mental contamination. So the purport, the Lord is like the sun. The sun's appearance means immediate dissipation of darkness or ignorance. And the Lord's appearance within the mind of the devotee can at once drive away the miserable mental effects. Chaitanya has therefore recommended constant chanting of the name of the Lord for protection from all contamination of the material world. 29th. Arjuna's constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna rapidly increased his devotion, and as a result, all the trash in his thoughts subsided. In the purport, when we get in touch with the transcendental Lord in his variegated energies by devotional service, the naked forms of all material desires become manifest, and the intelligence of the living being is pacified in its true color. So that means what? So what is happening is Arjuna is trying to remember Bhagavad Gita in separation from Lord actually. So because of remembering Bhagavad Gita, all the contaminations, of course, Arjuna is a pure devotee, but his separation, he's forgetting his separation from Krishna because the Lord is absolute. Arjuna is feeling his presence in the message of Bhagavad Gita. Like that. Here it is said the material desires, the desires other than serving Krishna, lording over material nature, they are getting subsided by the remembrance of Krishna. So here Prabhupada writes that when we render devotional service, see that's what he's telling, right? When we get in touch with the transcendental Lord in his variegated energies by devotional service, the naked forms of all materialisms become manifest. So how foolish or how fallacy it is to have a material desires, so that devotees will get that realization. Then मैं ऐसे कैसे इतना छोड़ desire रखा मेरे पास. So like that the devotee feels and that desire gets washed off. So that is the beauty of devotion service. So when we do devotion service, this happens actually. Okay, so next. Geetam Bhagavata Gnanam Yattat Sangrama Uddane Kala Karmatamo Ruttam Punat Atyagavatam Prabhu. Translation.
Devotees can read quickly with or without turn.
Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities, and because of his absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not the case, and again he became Lord of his senses.
Yeah, you can only continue reading Prabhu now. Only few verses are there. You don't need to take turns. So,
Because of his possessing spiritual assets.
Okay, wait. So because of the Lord's pastime, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not case. Again, he became the Lord of his senses. Yeah. So sometimes it may appear that we may have forgotten the Bhagavad Gita instructions. It happens sometimes in the service or we get distracted. So it appears that we've forgotten. But again, that message again comes in our heart. So in Gajendra's case also we see, so Gajendra previously, Indradumna, he also had prayed to the Lord, and in the Gajendra body, suddenly he remembered those prayers, right? It's never lost. The knowledge of the Lord is never lost. So again, it gets revived in the suitable moment. Neha Vikrama Nashosti, that verse is there, right? It's the last paragraph, read. Arjuna has no desire to fight with his relatives.
Arjuna had no desire to fight with his relatives, but he fought for the mission of the Lord. He was always engaged in the execution of his mission only, and therefore, after the Lord's departure, he remained in the same transcendental position, even though it appeared that he forgot all the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord, and by doing this, one is sure to return back home, back to Godhead. This is the highest perfection of life.
So Prabhupada is instructing that one should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. So just being in the mission of the Lord, adjusting our life in such a way that we are doing some service. So even though it appears that sometimes we might have forgotten the message of Bhagavad Gita, or we get driven by some emotions, but again we will get back. Our Lord will bring us back. So the point is, keep always yourself in the mission of the Lord. Next verse, direct translation.
Because of his possessing spiritual assets, the doubts of duality, they were completely cut off. Thus he was freed from the three modes of material nature and placed in transcendence. There was no longer any chance of his becoming entangled in birth and death, for he was freed from material form.
Yeah. Sanchinna Dvaita Shamshaya, Vishoka Brahma Sampatya. Sanchinna Dvaita, all the duality was removed. So for Arjuna, the duality is separation from the Lord. So it's not a material duality. For us, the material duality can be removed by remembering the Lord. So the duality of Sita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha, all those things. So the purport, by attainment of absolute knowledge in the middle, one can be in association with the Lord constantly, even in the present life. Simply by hearing, chanting, thinking of, and worshipping the Supreme Lord. One can see him, one can feel his presence even in this present life, simply by understanding the Advaya Gnana Lord, or absolute Lord, through the process of devotional service, which begins with hearing about him. So this is the Advaya Gnana, that is seeing everything in connection with Lord. There is nothing separate from Lord. That is the absolute truth there. Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam introduction, that what is absolute truth? Absolute truth is not just Krishna. Krishna along with his energies, everything included is called absolute truth. That means what? We are also part of absolute truth. Right? The Pancha Tattva, the 5 Tattvas, the Lord, his personal expansion, his incarnation, his energy, his devotee. So they're all combined together is called absolute, right? So it comes in variety. It's not one. So that is so when we understand this knowledge, that we are not separate from Lord any time. So similarly, Arjuna also, he could remove his separation just by remembering this aspect that there is nothing separate from Lord. So again, he felt the presence of the Lord. Yeah, and the last one is not able to feel the presence of the Lord in all circumstances until one is endowed with the required transcendental vision made possible by devotional service prescribed in the revealed scriptures. So you could find that last part of the paragraph from the bottom 5-6 lines.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So unless we practice devotional service, we can't feel the presence of the Lord. Unless we feel the presence of the Lord, how can we feel separation from the Lord? First, to feel separation from the Lord, we should feel his presence, right? So to feel his presence, we should practice a devotional service, which is described in the revealed scriptures. That is clear. Okay, next verse.
Upon hearing the Lord Krishna's returning to his abode, and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty's earthly manifestation, Maharaj Yudhishthira decided to go back home, back to Godhead.
So Maharaj Yudhishthira also turned his attention to the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita after hearing about the Lord's departure. He began to deliberate on the Lord's way of appearance and death. Similarly, like Arjuna, now Yudhishthira is also remembering the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Right? He's also preparing himself to go back. Yeah, in the end of the purport, since the appearance and disappearance of the Lord and his eternal associates are transcendental, one should not be bewildered by the external features of appearance and disappearance. So last 3 lines. Right? Sometimes, so now the Lord is departed. Now Arjuna is also preparing, and Yudhishthira is also preparing to leave. So that transcendental. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, the Lord never leaves his body. His body is transcendental, is always there. So similarly, the devotees, when they leave their bodies, sometimes it may appear like Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he left the body in an accident, car accident. Right? Ayendra Prabhu, there is some accidents. Like that, somebody got cancer or whatever. There are different ways where the Lord will call back his eternal associates. Now Yadus are also fighting with each other, right? And getting killed each other. So don't see the externals and get bewildered. So they're all, their appearance and disappearance are transcendental. So they will again go back to the spiritual world. So next verse, 33.
Kunti, after overhearing Arjuna's telling of the end of the Yadu dynasty and disappearance of Lord Krishna, engaged in the devotional service of the transcendental personality of Godhead with full attention, and thus gained release from the course of material existence.
Yes, now Kunti is also following the same path. Right? So Prabhupada very nicely, the purport. The beginning of devotional service to the Lord is the beginning of spiritualizing the present body. And thus an unalloyed devotee of the Lord loses all material contact in the present body. The abode of Lord is not a myth as is thought by the unbelievers or ignorant people, but one cannot reach there by any material means like Sputnik or space capsule. So one can certainly reach there after leaving his present body, and one must prepare himself to go back to Godhead with practicing devotional service. That guarantees a passport for going back to Godhead and quickly adopt it. So before that also, Prabhupada says that guarantees one a passport for going back to Godhead after quitting his present body. Devotional service guarantees. So the passport for going back to Godhead is practicing steadily devotional service. So 2 times Prabhupada uses the passport for going back to Godhead is steady practice of devotional service. So when we do like this, we have a passport, If you want to go back to Godhead, then the Lord need to call you. So that is visa. Okay? When the Lord wills, the visa is ready. But when the Lord wills, you need to have passport. You can't say that I don't have passport. Right? So therefore, throughout our life, we practice devotional service nicely and have a passport ready. And the Lord sends visa, then we go back to God. Next.
The Supreme Unborn, Lord Sri Krishna, caused the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies, and thus he relieved the burden of the world. This action was like picking out a thorn with a thorn, though both are the same to the controller.
So very nice. Kantakam kantakenaiva. So that is being told here. So little complex analogy. That what is the thorn? That one thorn, another thorn is being removed. And why those are being considered as burden to the earth in this word. So it appears like that. But Prabhupada clarifies in the purport that the demigods, they also joined in the mission. Like when the Lord comes, His eternal association. And with the Yadus, eternal companions, the demigods joined in their bodies. The demigods, they departed to their heavenly planets, and the eternal associates, they departed to the heavenly abode. Like that. So for that, something has to be a situation, therefore the fighting is arranged by the Lord. Right. So why the demigods came for the fulfilling the mission of the Lord. So he want to remove the whole all atheistic people and all to the war of Kurukshetra, Kurukshetra war, the 60 crore people were wiped out. So that is like removing all these thorns. So those are compared to the thorns which pinprick the Lord. The other thorns are the demigods through whose help Lord removed the other thorns. So that is what Prabhupada explains in the purport. And what is the burden here? If you see that it appears that how Yadus are burdened to the earth. So the Yadus are not burdened to the earth. They assisting the Lord as a thorn, they removed the burden of earth. So that is being told here. It's not that the Yadus are burdened to the earth. Okay, next verse.
The Supreme Lord relinquished the body which he manifested to diminish the burden of the earth, just like a magician. He relinquishes one body to accept different ones, like the fish incarnation and others.
So these incarnations, they always exist, right? So Lord manifests them at a particular time, like the Matsya incarnation, the tortoise incarnation, the Narasimha incarnation. They have different planets in the spiritual world. They're always existing. When it is required, Lord manifests. It's not that they're created. They're always existing. That is being told. The word Datte, in the purport purposes. Datte means accepted. It's not created. Okay. Next, 36th.
When the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, left this earthly planet in his self-same form, from that very day, Kali, who had already partially appeared, became fully manifest to create inauspicious conditions for those who are endowed with a poor fund of knowledge.
So when the Lord left, at the same moment, the Kali has already appeared, but now it became rampant. Right. So the Prabhupada writes in the purport, one can neutralize the effects of Kali by keeping oneself fully under the supreme care of the personality of Godhead. Last, as we already explained, Lord left out of sight just as when the sun sets, it is out of our sight. So there are actually many good qualities of Kali Yuga. Kalim Sabha Jayanti Arya. The people glorify Kali Yuga because it has Gunagna Sarabhagyan, who are essence seekers. they know that in this age of Kali, so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to be coming. And when one worships him, then there are no effects of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga Pavana, Kali Baya Nashina, Sri Sachinandana Gavodi. So that's only the beautiful song. So all the effects of Kali can be easily wiped out when we participate in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. Next.
Maharaj Yudhishthira was intelligent enough to understand the influence of the age of Kali, characterized by increasing avarice, falsehood, cheating, and violence throughout the capital state, home and among individuals. So he wisely prepared himself to leave home, and he dressed accordingly.
Yeah. So as soon as we saw that all these bad omens was already as seen previous chapter, now he is seeing them practically. So now he thought that now I have to wind up. So the purport in the end, the Prabhupada says, as soon as there is some young fellow to look after the household affairs, one should at once retire from family life to uplift oneself to spiritual realization. One should not rot in the dark well of household life till one is dragged out of the will by Amaras. Modern politicians should take lessons from Maharaj Yudhishthira about voluntary retirement from active life and should make room for the younger generation. Also, retired old gentlemen should take lessons from him and leave home for spiritual elevation before forcefully dragged away to meet death. Okay. So next verse.
Thereafter, in the capital of Hastinapura, he enthroned his grandson, who was trained and equally qualified, as the emperor and master of all land bordered by the seas.
Yeah. So now, so he has to leave. When Yudhishthira is leaving, he has to enthrone somebody else, right? Now Parikshit Maharaj is ready. So just to explain this event that we're enthroning the Parikshit Maharaj, so all these 4 chapters we discussed, that is being discussed here. Because there is a question of actually Shonika Rishis about the rule of Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah, Maharaj Yudhishthira trained his grandson Maharaj Parikshit, who was equally qualified in state administration in terms of the king's obligation to the citizens. So this is the obligation of Yudhishthira Maharaj to the citizens to give a representative who would rule like him. In the middle, the happiness of citizens was due to the ample production of natural produce such as grains, fruits, milk, herbs, valuable stones, minerals, everything that people needed. They were even free from all bodily miseries, anxieties of mind, and distress caused by natural phenomena of other living beings. Because everyone was happy in all respects, there was no resentment, although there were sometimes battles between the state kings for political reasons and supremacy. The next verse.
Then he posted Vajra, the son of Aniruddha, grandson of Lord Krishna, at Mathura as the king of Surasena. Afterwards, Maharaj Yudhishthira performed a Prajapatya sacrifice and placed in himself the fire for quitting household life.
So now after appointing Parikshit Maharaj, and then in Vrindavan, the Brajabhumi also, the grandson of Krishna, Aniruddha, was employed there. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj started winding up through a yogic process. Agnim Apibat Ishvara. Okay. Okay. Go to the next verse, 40.
Maharaj Yudhishthira at once relinquished all his garments, belt, and ornaments of the royal order and became completely disinterested and unattached to everything.
Completely disinterested. To become purified of mental contamination is the necessary qualification for becoming one of the associates of the Lord. No one can become an associate of the Lord or can go back to God without such purification. So Bhagavad Gita says, Nirmana moha jatasanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivutta kama dvandves vimukte sukadukta samne gacchanta moda padamabhyantat. Who can go to the spiritual world? Only one is freed of Nirmana moha jatasanga dosha. Yeah, even Prataparudra. So when he was, he wanted the mercy of the Lord, Sarvabhaumacharya tells him that okay, Lord is now going to take rest after dancing in Rath Yatra in the gardens. So you also go there and you dress yourself not in a kingly attire and go and massage the Lord. Pratapada goes there and massages the Lord. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to the external awareness and asks, who is there? Then king, what he says, he doesn't reply that I am a king, came to serve you. He says that I am Bhutyara Bhutya. I am the servant of your servant. I came to serve you. So, yeah, so when we come to that platform, then actually we receive the mercy of the Lord and we are ready to go back to God. Not with any external designations that I am so and so. Right? That all the upadhis, we should relinquish all the upadhis, which Yudhishthira Maharaj is practically doing. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatya nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Shevanam Bhaktivedanta. Right. So here Prabhupada says that people are got caught up in the isms, nationalism, patriotism. This is also one of the designations. People think that is spiritualism. So no, that is not spiritualism. So one should give up that also. Right. Yeah. So I'm not going into the purpose, very nice purpose, but we can read later. Next, 41.
Then he amalgamated all the sense organs into the mind, then the mind into life, life into breathing, his total existence into the embodiment of the 5 elements, and his body into death. Then, as pure self, he became free from the material conception of life.
Yeah. So basically, transferring the mind from material activities to spiritual activities. What Yudhishthira Maharaj is doing is a yogic way of winding up, because that is a norm at that time. Even though he is a devotee, so he is just following the norm of the time. Right. So how the creation starts, that is explained in the 2nd canto. So from the Mahat Tattva, all the elements, how they are produced sequentially, right? So here the wind-up is happening in the same sequence, reversing the sequence. So that is being told, but the essence is that when the mind is focused on the Supreme Lord and only on the service of the Lord as a servant of the Lord, then all these external elements automatically gets wind up. Next, 42.
Thus, annihilating the gross body of 5 elements into the 3 qualitative modes of material nature, he merged them in one nescience and then absorbed that nescience in the self, Brahman, which is inexhaustible in all circumstances.
Yeah. In the previous verse, purport, important one statement is, we can just underline it. Actually, the activities of the mind cannot be stopped, for they are the reflection of the eternal soul, but the quality of the activities can be changed from matter to the transcendental service of the Lord. So it's a very nice point. The activities of the mind cannot be stopped. They are the reflection of the eternal soul. So only we have to change the quality. So how we can change the quality? So always absorb in the service of the Lord. Always thinking about how I can do service to the Lord. All the senses, everything gets purified. Yeah, 42nd translation is read, right? Maharaj Yudhishthira, after distributing his kingdom, last part of the purport, last 5-6 lines. Maharaj Yudhishthira, after distributing his kingdom to Parikshit and Vajra, did not think himself emperor of the world or head of the Kuru dynasty. This sense of freedom from material relations as well as freedom from the material engagement of the gross and subtle encirclement makes one free to act as a servitor of the Lord, even though one is in the material world. This stage is called the Jivan Mukta stage, or the liberated stage, even in the material world. So somebody may be having position, post, he may be in the material world, but he is completely detached, like a coconut, when it is completely dry. So the shell becomes loosened from inside. So you can clearly hear it. So like that, Yudhishthira Maharaj became, he's detached. So ours is kacha coconut. So our attachment is there still. So when that detachment is there, even whatever appliances or position he has, he will completely use it in the service of the Lord. Because he will think that I am not the owner of this. They belong to Lord. Even my body, my senses, everything belongs to Lord. So that is that consciousness. So with that, there is no bondage only. Okay, next 43.
After that, Maharaj Yudhishthira dressed himself in a thorn clothing, gave eating all solid foods, voluntarily became dumb, and let his hair hang loose. All this combined to make him look like an urchin or a madman with no occupation. He did not depend on his brothers for anything, and just like a deaf man, he heard nothing.
So he became like a madman. Like Bharat Maharaj also behaving like Jada Bharata, right? So that's how the importance is given to spiritual life. So this is the priority one should give to Krishna consciousness. Everything else is second. So here his own brothers who are very dear to him, who helped him in many ways, but still he is not interested. Because now the time has come now how to live. This is more important than anything else. So like he had no dependence on his brothers who had all along being helping him. Next.
He then started towards the north, trading the path accepted by his forefathers and great men, to devote himself completely to the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he lived in that way wherever he went.
Yeah, Prabhupada in many purposes of this, he tells the same point. So one should retire when time comes. We should not stick in the family life on this sort of thing. So same repetition is there. The 45th translation.
The younger brothers of Maharaj Yudhishthira observed that the age of Kali had already arrived throughout the world and that the citizens of the kingdom were already affected by their religious practice. Therefore, they decided to follow in the footsteps of their elder brother.
So now the brothers are also following Yudhishthira Maharaj. So that's how they were trained. So in the purport, according to the principles of Sanatana Dharma, one must retire from family life after half the duration of life is finished. He must engage himself in self-realization. But the question of engaging oneself is not always decided. Sometimes retired men are bewildered about how to engage themselves for the last days of life. Here is a decision by authorities like the Pandavas. All of them engage themselves in a favorably culturing the devotional service of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Sometimes one may give up the material life, but they don't know how to engage in devotional service. But all these Pandavas, the brothers, they were well trained from beginning on how they should engage their life after retiring from the material life in devotional service. So Prabhupada writes in the envoy, right? Devotional service is not an imaginative ecstasy or dry speculation. Its substance is dynamic activity. Next, 46, translation.
They all had performed all the principles of religion, and as a result, rightly decided that the lotus feet of the Lord Sri Krishna are the supreme goal of all. Therefore, they meditated upon his feet without interruption.
So, because they were trained from childhood, they could remember the Lord at the end of the moment. So, in the purport of Antakale Chamame Vasman Muktva Kalevaram Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes, how can one remember the Lord at the time of death? So, throughout the life, one practices chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So, then one can remember at the end. Next.
Thus, by pure consciousness, due to the constant devotional remembrance, they attained the spiritual sky, which is ruled over by the Supreme Narayana, Lord Krishna. This is attained only by those who meditate upon the one Supreme Lord without deviation. This abode of the Lord Sri Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavana, cannot be attained by persons who are absorbed in the material conception of life. But the Pandavas, being completely washed of all material contamination, attained that abode in their very same bodies.
So the same body, the Pandavas can get the body. That means what? The body became completely spiritual by the practice of devotional service. Dhruva Maharaj example is that he went to the spiritual world in the self-same world. And here Prabhupada is also giving example how the Brahmanas, how the Malechas and Avanas can be transferred to Brahmanas by the process of initiation. So once when Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, the disciples came to Srila Prabhupada and they told that, oh, your God brothers are glorifying us. That they were telling that all of you can, the next life you all take birth in the families of Goswamis in Vrindavan, and then you can perfect your devotion service. Like that they told to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada became very angry. How can they say like this? You can go and tell, because they were innocent, they did not understand. Prabhupada told, you go and tell them that if they practice nicely this life, next life they will take birth as Avanas and Mlechas in the foreign countries, and then they will take participation in the ISKCON movement. So the point is that irrespective of who one is, whether Sudra, Mlecha, Avana, but the process will transform him. One can completely become spiritualized. The Jivan Mukta bolte na. So in the same body, it's like iron rod kept in the fire. It can also become like a fire. It can act like a fire. So like that, the Pandavas, they all went back to the spiritual world in the same body. 49.
Vidura, while on pilgrimage, left his body at Prabhasa because he was absorbed in thought of Krishna. He was received by the denizens of the Pitraloka planet, where he returned to his original post.
So now Vidura he also went back to his post, of course, as Yamaras. Next.
Draupadi also saw that her husbands, without caring for her, were leaving home. She knew well about Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Both she and Subhadra became absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna and attained the same results as their husbands.
So this is very, very important purport. So all of you can read that Prabhupada says that everybody has to fly their own plane. In devotional service, when the plane is in the land, there may be some support that we can do to others. But once the plane is taken off, so no other plane can support this plane. The plane has to take care of itself. Similarly, when we are practicing devotional service, we may take support from one another. But at the time when the end moment comes, then all our practice, all our consciousness, then we only have to take care. And nobody will come to help it. So here, Draupadi also, all the Pandavas, they were living together and Draupadi was serving them, but now they left without telling her also. But because she was trained, she remembered the practice and then she also followed her husbands and perfected her life. So very important purpose. We can read later. 51 last.
The subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life, back to Godhead, is fully auspicious and is perfectly pure. Therefore, anyone who hears this narration with devotional faith certainly gains the devotional service of the Lord, the highest perfection of life.
Yeah. The narration of the personality of Godhead and his devotees is absolute in itself. And thus to hear it with a devotional attitude is to associate with the Lord and constant companions of the Lord. By the process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can attain the highest perfection of life, namely going back home, back to Godhead without failure. Vivo. So we successfully completed this chapter. So hearing the pastimes of devotees, how the Pandavas left the spiritual world, just by hearing them with attention, we will also get the credit of devotion service. So that's a prediction. So the Goswami is giving here. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of first canto, 15 chapters from the Bhagavatam entitled Pandavas, Hitai time. So thank you very much. I'm very sorry that I have to rush. So many beautiful purpose. But yeah, you can all go through it and relish this transcendental messages of the Lord. Yeah, we are already 4:50. I don't know what question is there, but if you want, I can answer.
Prabhuji, Anand Mohan Prabhu had a question. I think, Prabhuji, this one, these two only.
Yes, Prabhuji, these two.
Discuss at least 3 principles drawn from the birth of Maharaj Parikshit relevant for the birth of contemporary Vaishnavas. Give specific reference to at least 2 Bhagavad Gita verses in the response. So what is the question? So, yeah, like Maharaj Parikshit, we discussed the different qualities of Maharaj Parikshit. He was compared to different personalities also, right? So, similarly, contemporary Vaishnavas, any Vaishnavas of our contemporary people, we can think about them and relate. Like tolerance, Maharaj Parikshit were tolerant like earth, right? So examples are given. So the tolerance aspect, maybe we can compare with the contemporary Vaishnava, how he exhibited the tolerance. Okay, I don't know what else is about.
For the 5-mark question, and we need to give us sufficient evidences, and means the question itself is a bit difficult to understand.
Pardon?
If you can explain in more detail what for 5 marks we have to write at least 10 sentences. If you can explain it more detail, what exactly, because they have at least 3 principles we have to draw with birth of contemporary Vaishnavas. What does that mean?
Like we can maybe think that, like Parikshit Maharaj, even before his birth, he was a devotee, and like he was always searching out for Krishna from his very birth. So those features are seen in contemporary Vaishnavas also, like Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur or Srila Prabhupada, how they were born devotees and how they were always attached to deity worship. So on these lines, I think his answer will be there.
Yeah. Second question is, there is confusion?
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada writes, the so-called Daritra Narayana, the misconception of the Supreme Lord by unauthorized persons, is never to be found in the Shastras as the object of charity. Discuss the relevance of this statement for the mission of ISKCON. Give a specific reference to at least 2 Bhagavad Gita verses in the response.
Can we say here that the mission of ISKCON is not only on mundane level, because the people who are like Daridra Narayana, they are saying that these poor people are Lord and you serve them, something like that. So just on the mundane platform, they are serving the body, and that is a misconception. And Narayana is never Daridra, and the people who are poor, they are also suffering, but the people who are rich, they are also suffering. So Krishna consciousness is for all.
Exactly. In this line only, the answer can be there. Maybe one Hindi lecture of Prabhupada answers this very thoroughly. So where reporters are asking Prabhupada that what you are doing for the poor people. And Prabhupada says everybody is poor. Why you are thinking only poor people are poor? So because you cannot remove the poverty just by addressing, by giving food or clothing, because the poverty per se will remain. Because that is their karma, they have to suffer. That nobody can avoid. But by giving spiritual knowledge and spiritual food, we can do some benefits. The relevance here means the ISKCON movement, we are not, of course, we may give food for life, but that is spiritual food. That's a prasadam. Like that. So, our focus is not just a social welfare activity. Our focus is giving spiritual welfare only. ISKCON stands for that. That is our mission. So that we have to mention in your purport, sorry, in your answer.
Prajit, Bhagavad Gita references also for both above.
It refers to at least 2 Bhagavad Gita verses in the response.
I think for first one, we can give Shruti Nam, Suchi Nam Dehe.
Yeah.
But it can be related to contemporary Vaishnavas, whatever, but for Maharaj Parikshit.
Yeah, like even 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Abdeshta Sarva Bhutana Maitra Karuna Evacha, a series of verses are there. So I'm currently unable to recollect anything actually. I could have seen these questions before, but I'm unable to think of. Maybe give some time. Maybe I'll mail to Anuj Prabhu, or I'll WhatsApp him if I have got something
Yes.
like that. So then it can be shared to all of you. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Prajit, chapter 13 also first question, closed book question. If you can just, it has ISKCON preaching application, personal application.
Or else, yeah, it can be done like this. If devotees have question, give me some time. I will go through these questions, and they can personally, my WhatsApp number can be given. They can message me, or they can call me. I can discuss with them. It's okay?
Okay, Prajit.
Okay, man. So Anuj Prabhu will share.
Yes,
Devotees, surely I want to go through it and give a better answer to you instead of spontaneously giving something. So give me some time. Actually, I'm not prepared today. Somehow I thought tomorrow I have to give. So suddenly we have to finish this. So anyways, so thank you very much for your hearing patiently. I'm just doing some blah blah here. Just brushing through, and you're encouraging me by your presence and asking questions, and very eager to learn Bhagavatam. So very, very inspiring actually to me also, and making me also to go deep into my study, not just brush through. And yeah, certainly all of your association. It's a very wonderful opportunity. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I'm there at your service.
Hare Krishna.
I'm there at your service. If somebody wants to ask, they can take my number and ask me personally.
Sure. Thanks so much.
Madhki Jai.
Jai Hare Krishna.
Tantrashrimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Yudhishthira Maharaj ki Jai. All the Pandavas ki Jai. Vidura Mahatma ki Jai. Dai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Happy Radhastami for the upcoming Saturday.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And from the side of the batch, we would like to thank you for taking us deep into the purpose of Srila Prabhupada and these amazing sessions. We are very grateful to you for revealing this.
Thank you for engaging in the service. Thank you to our Sakshi Prabhu also for giving me the opportunity to render the service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.